Dragonkin the Banished is finally out in its 1.0 glory, and I have to say the depth of character development here is impressive. I've seen everyone scouring Reddit and Discord looking for the best build or a guide they can simply copy-paste to win. Well, I got some bad news and some good news for you. The bad news is that Dragonkin isn't that kind of a game. You cannot just take 2 points in a talent tree, keep one unique item, and call it a day. It's not that simple. The good news? It's much more diverse, complex, and rewarding than that. If you're the type of a player who actually enjoys theorycrafting and building a character that feels unique to you, you're in heaven. The better news is, in this deep dive, I'm not only going to show you a build, I'm going to try to explain you the logic of the grid. We're going to cover the terminology, the math, the flexible layers of customization, so you can stop following guides and start architecting your own path to apocalypse difficulty. Chewiebro here, and before we dive into the math, we have to address the core identity of the game, spender on the system. Ever since the multiplayer patch removed traditional generators, the combat has shifted into a high-speed, action-heavy loop. You aren't wasting time hitting barrels or trash mobs to build resources anymore. Every button you press is a spender, which puts Dragonkin in a unique position among ARPGs. It changes the fundamental way we look at our grid, shifting the focus from how do I gain energy to a much more interesting question: how do I sustain the slaughter? Let's begin. Before talking theory, we need to establish some basics. If you already know your hexes from your fragments, feel free to jump to the next timestamp. For everyone else, let's look at your tools. The smallest unit of power in this game is a hex. A fragment is the item that drops as loot. It's a Tetris-like cluster of anywhere from 1 to 5 hexes, coming in varying rarities and shapes. Fragments generally contain 3 things: character skills, Wyrmling skills, or modifiers. You'll find fragments that are a mix of skill plus modifiers, or some that are pure modifiers. If you're looking to try a new build but haven't found the right drop yet, head to the Master of Fragments. He provides skill-only versions to get you started. But as you progress, you'll constantly be swapping those out for larger fragments with better modifiers as you find them. Once you have your fragments, they go into your Ancestral Grid. Every class has a unique grid shape, and solving the puzzle of how you fit those loot together is where the magic happens. While the game encourages you to experiment and swap skills whenever you want, there's a hard limitation on the grid itself. At any point, you can have maximum of 5 character skills and 5 Wyrmling skills active. And obviously those Wyrmling skills should match the element of the Wyrmling you have equipped. If you try to add a 6th skill to the board, the grid simply won't allow it. It forces you to be strategic about your starting 5. But remember, this isn't a permanent commitment. You can pull them out and rework your board whenever you find a better logic for your build. Now we are getting into the logic that makes the grid the most important part of your character. If you understand these 4 rules, you'll see the grid as a puzzle you can actually solve. Rule 1. Skills by themselves are basic, but the grid allows you to change how they behave. For a modifier to work, it must physically touch a skill hex. This is the wiring of the build. Modifiers range from simple damage buffs and cooldown reduction to complex changing, like converting a basic skill into a core skill, or granting defensive buffs that only trigger while that specific skill is in use. If you're struggling to fit everything in, remember you can rotate your fragments to squeeze them into the gaps as long as the connection to the skill remains. Rule number 2. Merely because a modifier is touching a skill doesn't mean it's working. Every skill and modifier has specific tags. For a bonus to apply, the tags must match. You can easily check this in-game. Hover over a skill to see which modifiers are currently affecting it, or hover over a modifier to see which skills are benefiting it. Let's give you an example. Battering Ram has an area tag. Hailstorm Barrage does not. If you place an area of effect modifier between them, it physically touches both, but only Battering Ram gets the buff. The tags don't match for Hailstorm, so the power doesn't flow. Rule number 3. Thresholds and effective power. The power of your modifiers doesn't scale in a linear fashion. It scales in brackets: 1, 3, 7, 15 and 30. This is where the concept of effective power comes in. As you reach higher thresholds, the rank of your skill increases. Higher ranks deal more damage, but also increases the resource costs. The ultimate goal for your main skill is rank 4. also known as Symbiosis. At this rank, your skills gains your character's elemental tag, opening up to a whole new set of modifiers it couldn't use before. To hit these thresholds, you need to understand the point values of your hexes. Commons are 1 point, uncommon 2, 3 are rare, legendary 4, lastly mythical 5 points. There are also divine ones, which is 1 higher than the usual. Just to give you an example, if you have 2 rare physical modifiers, 3 points each, touching a skill, you have a total of 6 points. Because the neck bracket is at 7, your skill is only benefiting from the threshold of 3 points. However, if you can replace one of those with 4-point physical modifier, you hit exactly 7 points. You'll see the threshold bump up, your effective power increase, and your skill rank will rise. And lastly, rule number 4. Binary modifiers. Finally, keep an eye out on the modifiers that don't scale at all. They are either on or off. A modifier like defensive stance requires exactly 3 points to be enabled. If you have 2 points, you get 0 benefit. If you have 4 points, it's activated, but that extra 1 cost is wasted in real estate. Your goal is to hit these particular requirements exactly so you can keep your grid efficient and save space for other buffs. Before we move on off the grid, there's one more tool at your disposal: the Enchanter. Think of this like the Enchanter in Diablo. If you find a fragment that is almost perfect, say it has 4 hexes you need, but one that is completely useless, you can swap that single hex for something else. This applies to your gear affixes as well. Once you enchant a stat, you're locked into that slot, where you can keep re-rolling it until you get the exact roll you need. It's a flexible system that allows you to turn almost items into abyss items, provided that you can cover the material cost, of course. The Ancestral Grid is where you will spend most of your time, but it's not the only customization you have. To really push into the endgame, you need to look at the other mechanics like talents, attributes, and passives. I like to divide these into 2 categories: sticky and flexible. Items in Dragonkin have affixes like any other RPGs, things like thorns damage, max HP, fire resistance, but unlike other games, items here also have talents. These don't come from a skill tree, they are tied directly to your gear. Think of talents like set bonuses from Diablo. Like modifiers on the grid, talents have thresholds too, usually 1, 3 and 6 points to reach ranks 1, 2 and 3. The more points of a talent you have, the stronger the effect becomes. As an example, for my Thorns build, the Warcry talent is mandatory. At rank 3, it allows my Thorns damage to actually critically strike. Because talents are tied to your equipment, they are sticky. Changing a piece of gear might break a threshold and kill your build's logic, which is why you have to plan ahead whenever you're swapping items. Every time you level up, you gain points to allocate into attributes like courage, agility, or resilience. Different attributes buff different stats. For example, every point in resilience increases your max HP and attack. As you reach certain points thresholds in an attribute, you unlock a choice of passives. The best part about this system is that it's completely flexible. Another example, early in my grind I took a passive for extra energy regeneration. Once I found gear with better energy affixes, I swapped that passive to something more useful since I was managing my energy better. Your passives should evolve alongside your gear to fill whatever gaps you currently have. There are 2 more very important customization options, the Grand Benedictor and the Memorialist. As you find fragments and items that you don't need, you can sacrifice them to the Grand Benedictor to unlock targeted modifiers and skill bonuses. There are again thresholds here, but once you made enough sacrifices, you can modify a skill with a certain bonus in addition to what you have on the grid. You can do the same with talents. As you break down items, you accumulate the talents tied to them. Initially you can add 1 talent bonus, but with city upgrades you can eventually choose between 2 additional talents. I consider the Grand Benedictor to be more flexible than the grid or your gear. You can use it to provide those last few points needed to bump up the threshold, or use it to add modifiers you simply couldn't fit on your grid, like the ultimate enhancement, in my case. Finally, there is the Memorialist, who imprints fragments directly onto your gear pieces. You take a fragment with a skill and modifiers, and a random modifier is chosen from that fragment to be inscribed onto your gear. The additional point value will depend on the rarity of the hex used. There's a small trick here. If you use a 5 hex fragment with different modifiers, your chance of getting that specific one you want is only 25%. But if you can find a 2 hex fragment that contains only the skill and the modifier you want, you can be 100% certain the imprint will be exactly what you need. This is why targeted farming is vital. Because imprints are tied to your gear, I consider these sticky. I usually save my imprints for items I know I'll keep for a while, or I use basic modifications like physical damage to give me a buffer while I'm swapping fragments around on the grid. Your Wyrmling isn't just a pet, it's a second pillar of your build. Like your main character, the Wyrmling has its own attributes tree and passives that you can modify and swap whenever you want. While the Wyrmling only has one armor slot, it's a powerful one. You can craft different armors that provide unique bonuses and particular talents. Whether you need your companion to be a tanky distraction or a high damage elemental engine, the choice is yours to swap their gear and passives to match your current needs. Finally, we have the tribute wall. Now this system opens up quite early in your journey, but it starts off very restricted. Initially, you'll only have a couple of slots available, giving you limited options for how you can shape your power. Unlike the Grand Benedictor, which I use for plugging holes and rounding out thresholds, the tribute wall is truly build defining. You place symbols on a specialized grid to activate ancestors, which provide massive transformative bonuses. While this system is technically flexible, you can swap your symbols around to change your bonuses. It's usually the core foundation that you build your entire strategy around. The real scaling starts once you hit level 50. From that point on, all your extra XP is funneled directly into the ancestor of your choice. This allows you to scale the power of those build defining bonuses as long as you keep playing. For my build, I focused on symbols that synergize with ice and thorns. Eventually, I was able to enable 3 different ancestors simultaneously, covering my raw damage, my freeze duration, and my crit chance. This is the ultimate layer of Theorycrafting that turns a good build into an apocalypse-ready monster. This is the eventual long-term goal for any build, and it's the main reason we are going to talk about efficient farming in the next section. Before you set foot in a chaos hunt, you need a blueprint. In Dragonkin, a build doesn't happen by accident. It starts with an idea. For me, that was a thorn-centric barbarian that could freeze the screen while reflecting damage. To keep this guide focused on the logic of the grid, I'm going to use this Thorns build as a case study. Keep in mind, this is a work in progress. I'm still refining the math, and once I'm 100% happy with the final version, I'll drop a dedicated deep dive build guide for it. If you want to see this logic in action or have questions as you build your own hero, come hang out with me on Twitch. It's much easier to explain these grid interactions live, and I'm always looking for ways to improve the setup. Here's the 4-step workflow to turn an idea into a reality. Step 1. Look at the Master of Fragments tooltips for synergies. I picked Battering Ram for movement, Hailstorm Barrage for primary scaling, and Unleash Frenzy for the AoE clear and Thorns buff. I usually aim for 1 or 2 core skills, 1 defensive and 1 movement. Your last 2 slots are flex spots to solve whatever your build is currently lacking. Step 2. Next, identify your set bonuses. The talents. I knew Warcry was non-negotiable for Thorns crits, then check your affixes. As a melee tank, my shopping list was simple: Thorns and max HP. Step 3. You have to decide how you will sustain the slaughter. Will you use the grid to stack energy regen and reduce costs, or will you hunt for a total conversion like the Barbarian specific Corrupted Blood talent to trade HP for skills? Every class has different solution, but you need to find yours early, or your build will stall the moment you hit a boss. And last step, don't wait for mythic drops. Use the 1 hex fragments from the Master of Fragments to lay out your starting 5. This lets you see the tags you need to breach. Once the logic is on the board and you see where your physical and ice modifiers need to go, you have your target. Now that the blueprint is ready and the shopping list is written, it's time to go out and collect these pieces. This is where we enter the harvest. If you've stuck with me this far, you've moved past the copy-paste crowd. You're ready to architect your own character. But a blueprint is simply paper. Now we need the materials. Here are some ways to do it. 1. The first thing you need to do is set your loot filters. Don't let your inventory get cluttered with trash logic. If your build doesn't require repel or spry modifiers, or you aren't playing a chaos build, set your filters to auto dismantle them. In this game, a fragment isn't good simply because it's mythic. It's only good if it has the tags to power your engine. The second thing you might need to do is Eternal's Gift is your most powerful tool for targeted farming. Eternal's Gift allows you to significantly increase your chances of getting defined drops from the loot table. Early on, I prioritized Warcry above everything else exclusively to get the build's core mechanics functional. Once I get some stuff, once I had my basics, I got Surgical, hunting for chess piece with the Warcry talent, specifically to hit my rank 3 bracket. The customization here is quite diverse and it probably deserves its own dedicated video. So let me know in the comments if you want a deep dive on Eternal's gifts. Now that we got it sorted out, let's look where to farm. You have a couple of options here. There are Champions hunts. If you want to maximize your time, you should focus here. These are quick and the Eternal's gift is triggered guaranteed. Boss hunts, these are also guaranteed Eternal gift triggers, but they take longer to clear. Use these when you need the specific boss drops. Dungeon Purification is another one. This is great for general progression. While the Eternal Gift triggers only a chance here, you'll walk away with more loot overall. And lastly, the Test of Will. This is the ultimate test. It's where you see if your logic actually holds up, and the higher you push, the better the loot quality becomes. At the end of the day, I treat Dragonkin as a sandbox. It's a theorycrafting paradise if you're into that kind of depth. It's a game where the build itself is the main character and the combat is simply the stress test. Most ARPGs give you a content and tell you to find the build to clear it. Here, we perfect the build first, then we go out and see how much of the world we can break. I'm almost 100 hours into the game now and I'm closing in on part 3 of my full review series. If you haven't seen the first 2 parts, where I talk about the general features of the game, definitely check those out to see how we got here. If this guide helped you make some sense of the grid, drop a like and subscribe for more logic-driven content. I'll see you over on Twitch for the live tests, which much easier to answer your specific build questions there. And keep an eye out for that Full Thorns Barbarian deep dive soon. Good luck in the slaughter. Chewiebro out.